Okay, I think that's everyone in, or if not, hopefully someone will continue to admit the host. In which case, it's my pleasure to say welcome to everyone to our event today as part of the Despite Extractivism event series. And today we're going to be talking and hearing and experiencing some ideas around worlding, which is the sort of third theme that we've chosen to explore in response to our exhibition and the amazing contributions that we've seen in that. So we're going to be exploring worlding and extractivism as a worldview and the worlds otherwise that persist and resist despite extractivism. So after my quick introduction, we'll be inviting several of the exhibition contributors to guide us through their reflections on the theme of worlding, including a very special performance from the Kartini Kendeng singers who are based in Indonesia. So on this idea of worlding, I'd like you all to, if you'd like to just say hello in the chat and maybe say where in the world you're joining us from, sort of with the idea that although we may all have very different worldviews and they may not always align, or sometimes we can find sort of solidarity between our worldviews, we do also share a physical world, which we're in. Yes, so this is our third event. The other events are already up on the website for you to catch again if you didn't manage to join us the first time round. We began with a launch event where we welcomed everyone to the gallery, introduced the exhibition space, the online exhibition space, and it has some wonderful introductions to the work by the artists themselves. So a little bit about the exhibition for those who haven't managed to catch any of the events so far. It's called Despite Extractivism, and it assembles expressions of care, creativity, and community in relation to diverse extractive contexts. So it's both an exploration of extractivism and of the already existing alternatives. And collectively, the works in this exhibition illuminate and explore ways of questioning, subverting, and resisting the violent logics and impacts of extractivism. So in these three events, we've sort of been exploring the feminist political ecologies of extractivism, which is where we're situated sort of academically as Extracting Us, the curatorial collective, which includes Mai, Diane, Becky, Alona, Selena, so lots of people here that can give you a wave to say hi. And we've been exploring the intersections of academia, art and activism. And something that we pay attention to in particular in feminist political ecology is how systems of power operate across scales. So we decided to theme our exhibition event series around this idea, starting first with the body and embodiment, expanding then to consider community. And today we're considering worlding. But if you've been to all or any of these events, it'll be really evident that these are really interlapping themes, and there'll be a lot of embodiment and community central to the ways in which we will be exploring worlding in today's event. Just to recap briefly on those events. The first event was embodiment with performances by Arabella Labrusen and Luce Trolls. And there we were thinking about how the body is where we know the world, where the world acts upon us and where we act in the world. We were considering questions like, how is extractivism enacted on bodies? How do embodied experience invoke sensibilities and reactions to extractivism? How do they inform our claims or collective demands? And then a couple of weeks ago, we were thinking about community, what that means in our different contexts. And we heard some amazing stories from the Pari community in Indonesia and from the Save Our Sparrows campaign. And it was really interesting, both were using different forms of counter mapping as a strategy of resistance to counter the claims of extractive industries, helping make visible or reimagine regenerative relationships between people with a more than human, the natural world, and all that despite extractivism. So on to today, we're going to be thinking about worlding. So not just about the world, but worlding as a verb, an act of bringing worlds into being, acting in particular ways depending on how we understand and relate to who and what is in the world. So we can also think of extractivism as a singular and toxic way of being in and relating to the world. And then in each of sort of the contributions in the Despite Extractivism exhibition. There are really different ways of considering ways of acting and relating to the world otherwise, which is what we're going to be delving into today. Working with the Zapatista definition of the pluriverse, which is the idea that there's the world that we want is a world in which many worlds fit. And hopefully this webinar will provide a common space to share stories and conversations across our differences. So today we're sort of inviting our contributors to consider how they, or those that they work with, make sense of the world, and what ways are worlds that persist despite extractivism brought into being through the work, through the persistence of traditional worldviews and practices, or through the prefiguration of alternatives. What happens or what is created when their work and worldviews meet each other's works in this exhibition or these events, and can or should we avoid talking across each other? I should have said already, sorry, that we do have interpretation available in Indonesian and from Indonesian to English as well. So please do make use of that. It's the little symbol that looks like a globe at the bottom, up by the chat, down by the chat there. So hopefully you can find that if you need it. I don't know if we want to make that announcement in Indonesian as well. Maybe Mai?
Halo kawan-kawan yang berbahasa Indonesia, silakan kawan-kawan ada gambar kayak bola dunia begitu di bawah. Kawan-kawan bisa taruh atau centang yang bahasa Indonesia. Dinda, terima kasih Dinda akan membantu untuk menerjemahkan. Jadi saat kawan-kawan juga bisa berbicara bahasa Indonesia, atau kalau kesulitan misalnya taruh aja di chat jika ada hal yang ingin disampaikan. Terima kasih. Continue to you, Alice.
Thanks, Mai. Great. So just to give a little overview of what's going to happen in the next sort of hour and 15 as we're at now. So to begin, Maria Faciolince Martina and Daniel Macmillen Voskoboyonik will invite us to consider extractivism as a worldview, or an act of worlding in a guided meditation. And if you have got pen and paper to hand, that would be perfect. So you can find that now. We'll then invite Dewi Candraningrum to present the Kartini Kendeng singers she works closely with in Indonesia, which I'm really looking forward to this. After a short time for questions and reflections, we'll invite V'cenza Cirefice and Linda Sullivan to share experiences of resisting extractivism across Ireland through both local traditional worldviews and international solidarity and sort of worldviews that you can find there. And then we'll have some more time for questions and discussions before briefly returning to V'cenza and Linda to guide us through a closing reflection based on the idea of the Council of Beings, which is a way of looking at the world through sort of the eyes of another being. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Daniel and Maria. So Maria is an anthropologist, multimedia communicator, and ecofeminist artist activist working to shift dominant narratives around development, climate, and gender justice. She's currently a fellow at the Climate Vulnerable Forum, working with the AGAM agenda, an initiative reimagining the climate agenda through stories and art, and works with Culture Hack Labs on opening narratives and possibilities of world making. Daniel Macmillen Voskoboyonik is a campaigner, poet, and researcher, also a contributor to our exhibition, so please do check out his work. And they're working at the intersections of climate justice, historical memory, and transformative economics. He currently supports the Global Green New Deal and Healthy Food, Healthy Planet initiatives. So over to you, Daniel and Maria. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Alice, Mai, the whole team, and everyone for joining us today. I hope that you're well where you are. And just before we start, Maria and I will be guiding you through a collective meditation and exercise. So make sure, if you can, that you're sitting somewhere comfortable and that you have a piece of paper and a pen at hand. So just take a moment to do that, unless you have it already. And we'll start in a few moments. And as you sit, I'd like to invite you to join us in closing your eyes or lowering your gaze. Take this moment to breathe deeply. Feel the wave of your breath coming in and coming out. Notice your body. Notice your aliveness, the aliveness of your closest ecosystem, which is your body. And still closing your eyes, when you feel ready, we'd like to invite you to think of your surroundings. Think of your city, your town, your house, the room you're in. Notice where you are. What are the materials that have made your surroundings? Notice the wood, the concrete, the rock, the iron, the oil. Where did they come from? What did it take for the world that surrounds you to be made? What had to be destroyed or desecrated? What acts and relations of injustice hold together the fabric around us? The cities we live in, the food we eat, the dominant economic model around us. Take a moment just to recognize and sit with this. You might not know all the journeys involved, and that's okay. Maybe you can take the curiosity for these invisible traces with you to explore after this session.
Just for now, let's acknowledge that there's also cracks in that violence. Borrowing some words from Anna Tsing, global landscapes today are strewn with this kind of ruin. Still, places can be lively despite announcements of their death. Abandoned asset fields sometimes yield new multi-species and multicultural life. In a global state of precarity, we don't have choices other than looking for life in this ruin. Our first step, then, is to bring back curiosity. So still with your eyes closed, holding your environment in your mind. What happens if you begin to see it as lived and living memory? In your mind's eye, we'd like to invite you to walk your environment. Search for something in those cracks that persists, that resists, that reminds you that other worlds are possible. Maybe it's a community garden, or a person, or a space. Could be a group of people, a social movement, a landscape. Just sit with that. Engage with this place of possibility. What does it look like? What does it smell like? What does it feel like? What and who is sustaining this place and this space? Are there hands, particular hands that sustain it? Particular landscapes? Now imagine this particular space or group that you have in your mind thriving. Can you imagine it? Just embrace this thriving space. Notice any images that come up. Maybe sounds, words. What is this possible world? Notice sensations in your body that arise. And keep breathing. Now, step gently away. Maybe start to move your fingers and your toes. Keep this embrace mentally. But now I'd like to invite you to slowly and gently open your eyes and come back to this space. Now that you have your pen and paper in front of you, the invitation for the next 2 minutes is to write a letter to this possible world in the cracks, to this thriving space that you held in your mind. Imagine this as an invocation or a love letter, and address the letter to this possible world as concretely as you can, that space that you thought of, that you identified in your environment. Maybe ask the following questions. What is my relationship to you? How can I nurture you? What do you need from me to nurture you? And what is it that I need to see? So just take some time to do this. Embracing all of the images, sounds, feelings, words that you imagined possible. So just for those who need a little reminder, just dropping into the chat some of the guiding questions that you can think through. And this is just a start. This is not an essay. It's a start of a letter to nurture a relationship with that possible real world birthing in the cracks around you.
So we have just a little bit more than half a minute. Just end up wrapping up your thoughts. This is something you can come back to later. And slowly, your own pace, you can come back to the Zoom. We're going to hand over back to Alice now, but just before that, we'll leave a question in the chat. If you want to share later on throughout the call, what was it that reminded you of these other worlds and the worlds you want to see? Who did you write a letter to? What did you find valuable there? At your own time, only if you want to, feel free to share in the chat. But we want to thank you for joining us on this little guided journey. And without any further ado, over to Alice.
Thank you so much for that opportunity to think and be guided together with you. Thank you so much. Not only to consider the extractivism around us in our everyday lives and worlds, but those cracks which are so important to what's motivated the exhibition as well. Thinking of those little weeds that persists and that just need something to flourish. I'm actually going to hand over to Mai to introduce the next part of the event. Thanks, Mai.
Hey, Alice, thank you. Thanks, Daniel and Maria. It's so nice to have kind of reflection in the beginning. The second presenter who will share with us is actually Dewi Candraningrum and Yusukina, but we have difficulties to see enter the Zoom. We still try to get her, but I will starting to introduce Dewi and Yusukina. So this is the story from North Kendeng Mountain, Central Java, Indonesia. It's about the cement minings and German-based cement corporation have deforested and mines their way to profit and are met with the Kartini Kendeng resistance. Kartini is actually the symbolics of women resistance since before colonial. And also the community have a long resistance to the colonial and also the extractivism in their area at the moment. So Kartini Kendeng are women ecological defenders against cement mining. The women from Kendeng sing a kidung or song every time they protest, even when they make like the press release and kind of that they put their language called Javanese language in their presence to the state. In defiance against the extractive industries, kidung is a chant of worship and prayer dedicated to the giver of life, the creator of the universe, and in appreciation of nature, which is the source of food, clean air, and the home of all humans, animals, and a reflection of their hope and prayers. Kidung, when working in the rice work and terrace, they also singing, even cooking, helping their children to study, and even during fighting for ecological and social justice. So these kidung are religiously sung to initiate protests in North Kendeng Mountains. Yusukina is one of the 9 Kartini Kendengs, and Dewi Candraningrum, our contributors today, is Indonesian painter known for her uncompromising and passionately vibrant color of portrait paintings that deal with such themes as ecology, identity, the woman faces and human bodies, which she calls as warm documents. She founded Studio Jejer Wadon, Wadon is women, and Alas Wadon, and runs regular discussions on ecology, feminism, and gender with the community. In addition to her artistic work, she also currently teaches gender studies in several universities. Please, Mbak Dewi, floor is yours.
Thank you, everyone. So it is a pity that Sukina, one of the indigenous women who is defending the Kendeng Mountain, cannot join us today. So basically, actually she is ready to meet us, but I don't know, with the Zoom bureaucracy, we have to insert email, while Yusukina is indigenous woman who has no email at all. So I wish that in the future, when we hold this kind of occasion, we could think of a way in which indigenous women or women who cannot access high technology like us could join our talk, or could join our concern, because they are our prime source of inspiration. Thank you, Mai, for introducing Sukina and me, and thank you everyone, the committee as well, for letting our voice to be heard globally, for letting our voice being exhibited in Brighton, if I'm not mistaken. And then this tonight, I also invited students from Indonesia. So some of the name that joined this meeting is students of a master degree of the Islamic University in Yogyakarta, for your information, because they are part of the our writing project on ecofeminism. So they would like to know what happened with the other part of the world. I think it is because of you, not only your tremendous hard work, but your forever commitment to this cause that bring us together in this session. Back to Kartini Kendeng, as Mai or Siti Maimuna has introduced us all, Kartini Kendeng is the 9 women being epitomized in the name, but it is basically not 9 women, but it is hundreds of women who sit at the mining site at the Central Java. And they are now fighting against several international salmon corporations, not only from Indonesia, not only from the Germany, but also other international corporations. They are still fighting against those corporations. They are also fighting against the destruction there, not only mining, but also illegal logging. From their case, that we have been together for around 10 years, I was come there as a scholar to do research, doing research and then publication. I was unable to painting at all at that time. approximately in 2013. But then in 2014, as we joined Daniel and Maria contemplation this evening, I have also experienced sort of years of contemplation, meeting these wonderful women. And then I am listening to my own instinct. I am listening to the instinct of the Mother Nature. I am revisiting my relationship with the nature. I was revisiting the way I see the nature and the way I see myself. And then there is a call, a sudden call. I can paint. So that is magic to me, because previously I cannot paint. Previously I was educated in Australia and then Germany. I was so cultivated with this, but I don't know, there is something lack there, barren there. When I am meeting this ecological defender, it is like I am doing another PhD, like I am writing another dissertation. So, but it is a different dissertation. It is not in a clinical way, but it is more on a reflective and solidarity ways. I don't know. So it is, again, it is like a magic. I can paint. So, and then I decided painting their faces, because every time I visited their houses, I find no pictures of their faces. And I realized that human life is much shorter than the life of the universe. And then I try to epitomize the intricate relationship and then the spiritual relationship of these women to the Mother Nature in the form of painting. This is also my other painting of the girls. This is rape victims of the place where social injustice, ecological injustice happened. So from that on, I then become painter. But I personally do not want to call myself as a painter, because I have like a scholar background. So that's why I call them as a womb document. So this is a document of the womb, because I do not want to refer just female, but I would like to recall, I would like to refer to the diverse genders, and not only women, but also the sexual minorities, the male, and then the species. Yeah. So by visiting them and then living with them and then learning from them, I learned that care is a form of resistance. So they are cooking at the mining site. They were pregnant at the mining site. They were taking care of the baby at the mining site. They are chanting the song at the mining site. And I see it is care. And this is the world that we are living now. And this is the world that we deserted. And it is a huge loss for us. And I think that's all. I would like to give the time to Mai again. Thank you. Mai, would you like to play that the song?
Yes, I will. We have a song from Yusukina. Just try to have the wait. I will share you the meaning of the song, because it's
Okay.
the song is in Javanese language. So I will share the meaning of the. Could you open the share, Alice, for me?
What's that? Sorry, from the, is it on the Google Drive?
No, the screen.
Ah.
Could you open access for the screen? Oh, okay. Wait. Should you see? The okay. Everyone can follow. Larani ibu bumi kang ngadili. La ilaha illallah al-malikul hakul mubin Muhammadur Rasulullah Sadiqul Wadil Amin.
Yeah, so that is the song being chanted by Kartini Kendeng every time they are delivering a protest in front of the office of the governor of the Central Java, in front of the office of the presidential palace, and in front of the embassy of Germany. So by chanting the song, they would like to send a peaceful message that you are not only robbing our present goods, but you are robbing the future generation. I think that's all mine. I'm afraid that I'm exceeding the time.
Yes, thanks, Mbak Dewi.
Yeah.
Yeah, I pass this to Alice. Thank you.
Yeah, I
And
already let
sorry.
I already let Yusukinah know that we are playing her song, and she is happy for that. Thank you.
Yeah, she said also sorry about this. I feel, you know, us feel sorry about that. Yeah, Alice, please.
Yeah, I'm also really sorry we couldn't invite her directly to join us today. That's a real shame, but thank you so much for sharing that. And we'll try and get the recordings in the chat there so that you can listen again and maybe hear the quality a little better, although that was very true. The fragility of our connections made it also very powerful. And I would also encourage you to have a look at Dewi's beautiful paintings on the Despite Extractivism website, which sort of illustrate the women who are singing these songs and tell a bit more of the story there. We're actually just going to have, if anyone had a direct question now, we can just take 5 minutes for that before we move on. I can open it up if anyone would like to just unmute yourself and reflect anything or to say anything in the chat.
Could I ask, from Cornwall in the southwest of the UK, it feels amazing to be joined with everybody in this group today, like this quite like spider's web, gossamer threads around the world. And for me, the cricket that is singing in Dewi's background is, you know, speaking for all the non-humans who we are fighting for and who we want to help. I'd like to understand from Dewi and Mai and Marie and the other people in Indonesia right now, just how it feels to have this connection with these others in these different places to your struggle. And can you say a little bit about how our presence, even though it's virtual, how our presence helps, if it does? And yeah, that's the question.
Dewi or Mai, did you want to reflect on that?
Thank you. I think it reminds me when I meet with our and my as well, yeah, our German network community of green activists. I told them about the Kendeng case and how they do think about this, because it is quote unquote Heidelberg cement. It's a sister corporation which is now mining in Indonesia. What do you think? And then I am asking them about solidarity. I'm asking them the questions of the sisterhood. What does it mean campaigning sisterhood if, quote unquote, we are not standing with our sister far away from your place? It led then asking them to voicing our concern there in their home country, to talk to the miner, quote unquote, about the request of the Kartini Kendeng, the request of this female heroine. In the and then it led to the spider web, like you said before. And today this session is this Zoom. I see the world in different way, that we are not alone, that Kendeng case, Kartini Kendeng case is replicated everywhere. There are many dots at in this earth, and we are thankful that we are then being connected. We are humbled because we can talk to each other. And it is true that even this Zoom has a severe penalty even to visibility if that those or indigenous women cannot access, because I cannot talk in the name of them. So it is more real, the connection, if we could hear from them directly. But because of the technological problem that we have today, so it is becoming another reflection for me personally, that if we have that technological problem, it could means also invisibility. And well, it is becoming a long homework then later. Mai?
Yes, I just remember. I think this also relate with the Kendeng. I remember in 2000 October, 2020 October in Indonesia, when COVID just started, and the government decided to have amendment of 70 regulation transforms to one regulation. They call omnibus law, undang-undang cipta kerja, like creating, workforce for the people. And the government asks people to not go anywhere because it's COVID. But what happened is the parliament member continuing to discuss about the regulation, which is threatening labor, indigenous people, even like environmental, because like opening more access for the investment, including mining. So they not hear about people voice, and then even when people have demonstration, the regulation of COVID will against them. And finally, there is riot everywhere in Indonesia, but the government decided to publish the new regulation. But the thing is, then people also use the online space for kind of making tribunals about that by online, which is, I really amazed how actually people somewhere from Papua, from the small island, remote island, can also express what they're feeling about it. So like what Daniel and Maria and Dewi said about, you know, it's possible always creating the cracks on the extractive landscape. But yes, it's always challenge when we, you know, making a cracks in the context of technology, the connection and kind of that. But that's my thinking about you know, the present situation in Indonesia when online is really matter at the moment in the bad and a good way, but we will use that as a crack to, you know, to challenge extractivism in a way. Thank you.
Yeah, now at the moment you can listen from my Zoom the voice of the cricket, because now I am living in a village in Central Java, and outgrown trees, and there are green crickets and also brown crickets. I don't know if you could hear it. Can you listen to it?
Yes, yes.
Yes, that's the voice of the cricket. So that's as a sign that the rainy season will end. So because Indonesia is approaching dry season in March.
Thank you very much, Dewi and the Kendeng singers. And I'm so sorry that we weren't able to engage directly. What the conversation just now really nicely moves us into the next part of the webinar, where we can explore a little bit more about these questions around solidarity and the connections, the kind of worlding that people are able to achieve as they push through the cracks of extractivism. So I'd like now to introduce V'cenza Cirefice and Linda Sullivan, who are taking us to another part of the world and another sort of part of the exhibition as well. V'cenza is one of the contributors to the exhibition. You may already have engaged with her work on resisting mining in the Sperrins in Ireland. And Linda Sullivan is an activist and writer from Belfast, and Linda spent years accompanying communities impacted by mining in Peru and Ireland, so that really interesting connection there. And they're going to offer, through their work, some reflections around these sort of forms of solidarity internationally, bringing together different kinds of worldviews. And so I'm not going to speak anymore. I'd like to just sort of turn over to both of them and let them explain a little bit about the ways in which they're engaging with this idea of worlding as part of our work together, despite extractivism. So over to you, V'cenza and Linda.
Thank you, Becky, and thank you everybody for your amazing contributions so far. Yeah, I could listen to you all day. It's amazing. Yeah, I just wanted to introduce our wee section by reflecting on the beautiful song that we just heard. And I know that in Irish traditional music, we often say that we speak rather than sing the last line of the song, so that people can come back to this world gently. And I think that, yeah, music and song has such a powerful way of transporting us to other worlds and different ways of looking at the world and seeing and being. So thank you so much, Dewi, for sharing that with us so far. I'm just going to share my screen for a moment. Sorry, Alice, maybe I need to have some permission. Thanks. Perfect. Thank you. And I just wanted to reflect really quickly on the idea of language and how that shapes how we see and interact with the world. And at the moment I'm working in the Irish context, and I'm really influenced by these 3 amazing books. And if anyone's interested in this topic, I really recommend checking them out. I suppose the area that's resisting this gold mine in the north of Ireland at the minute is one of the last Irish-speaking areas of the north of Ireland. And I think that these books do a lot in this movement at the minute we see across Ireland to revive the lost world words that we had for the landscape and what that means for our connection to place and our connection to the world around us. And Sinead Mercier in her beautiful book points out that in Irish, the word for environment means the lived in life. So compared to in English, environ means what we're surrounded by. So there's this kind of acknowledgement that there's no split between society and nature. It kind of goes beyond that dualism. And I suppose, through colonialism, many places have lost, the link to their languages. But I suppose these books are really powerful in reminding us about other ways of thinking and relating to the world. And I just wanted to mention the places that I tried to convey in the exhibition contribution, and sacred places are very much, at saying that, the landscape is social, and that reminding us that modernity and that capital accumulation aren't the only ways and the only stories that we have to tell when we're relating to landscapes as well. I just wanted to mention one word from 32 Words for Field, which is scheme. And that means a thin sort of layer of dust on a mantelpiece, or if you have a bit of flour left on the table after making bread. But it also has a deeper meaning, which is the film of layer of fairy film that covers the land. And I suppose, that kind of on that element of not knowing everything and not being able to control everything, and that sort of idea of mysticism that's still alive in certain places, I think is really powerful and helps us realize that there's many ways of seeing the world in this pluriversal way of being. Just wanted to bring you on a little trip to Ireland with us before we go to look at links to other parts of the world. So I'll pass to Linda next.
Yeah, thanks, V'cenza. And thanks to everyone for their contributions so far. I feel very privileged to be here in this space. As V'cenza was saying, what we're trying to do here is think of how to tell our story better, or step out of the story, a story that we have been pulled into, I suppose, over the past number of centuries here, a story of industrial growth and a story of a culture and society based on extractivism and exploitation. So it's, in a way, we're unlearning, but also trying to learn anew. And I suppose what V'cenza was saying, like through language and through stories, like how our ancestors once knew, like the deep interconnection between ourselves and the living world in which we live. Like we're trying to recapture that sense of belonging and sense of connection. And one of the ways in which we're trying to do that is through promoting and campaigning for the rights of nature here on the island. The idea that nature has a right to exist, has a right to be restored, to evolve and to thrive. And in a way that it's an old story, but it's also framed in a new way, and it helps us address the threats of extractivism. And I suppose here extractivism, as in many parts of the world, comes in many forms. So we have like the threat of mining, sand dredging, fracking and quarrying, but also we see like the likes of industrial agriculture as a form of extractivism, because it extracts from and exploits land. And so through the Rights of Nature campaign, we're trying to redress that that imbalance. And just want to share with you and just a small extract from an article I wrote in a local magazine called Fractal, a really beautifully produced magazine by artists here, all done in a voluntary capacity. And so, yeah, part of my contribution was this article on rights of nature. So, so what if we considered? So, just to explain, actually, Lough Neagh is the largest lake here. It's also the largest freshwater lake in Europe, and it's at the heart of our island. So, what if we considered Lough Neagh the beating heart of our island, and rivers such as the Lagan and the Bann, her arteries, bringing nourishment to the living land? What if we saw the mountains of Mourne or the Sperrins as her rippling spine, holding up a beautiful body in dignity? What if we considered our fellow animals as different yet interconnected parts of this body, all fulfilling their varied roles to keep the natural balance of the whole? Would we then be another helpful element in this one wondrous ecosystem? Or would we rather continue as a parasite we have become, continuously taking but never giving, mining but not minding, polluting instead of cultivating? Communities from Greencastle to Rath Island and Derry to Rostrevor are stepping up to demand our rights as communities, and the rights of our earth are enshrined and respected. In writing our new laws, we will write our new story, one that brings us out of what we call business as usual, past the great unraveling and into the great turning. And as the saying goes, we live in active hope. So I just want to pass over to V'cenza now to talk a wee bit more about a special visit that we had recently from the Zapatistas. And one of the places we brought them was Lough Neagh to share the story of extractivism and sand dredging there. And yeah, and then we brought them also to the Sperrins, where a place that's a threat from mining. So I'll just pass over to V'cenza now.
Thanks, Linda. Yeah, as Linda said, we were really privileged to be able to host a delegation of Zapatista women in October. And yeah, we just wanted to share some thoughts from that visit because we really did learn a lot. And yeah, it was just really a joy to be able to be in dialogue with them here in Ireland. So I'll just skip to this. I suppose one of the main takeaways that we learned was this idea that worlding takes place in the everyday. And the Zapatistas, taught us that they were worried that they wouldn't know how to organize themselves or practice autonomy after their revolution. But whenever it came to it, they realized that they were already practicing autonomy in their everyday. And so, yeah, I think this idea of how we relate to the world and how we relate to each other is a radical act. And if we move to relationships based on reciprocity and kinship and care, that's such a powerful and radical thing in itself, and that takes place in these everyday spaces and relationships, and we're doing it all the time through these cracks that we're talking about. And as well, they reminded us that we can't just take what they've done and transplant it into our context, but that what we do, we need to find our own way of doing things that is based on our own culture and context and histories of each place. So I'll just pass back to Linda to share a little bit more before we finish. Thanks.
Yeah, so I'd like to also share with you another special visit that helped us unlearn and learn anew, and that was from Chaz Jewett from the Lakota Nation on Turtle Island, and she visited us a few years ago and travelled also to sites of extractivism and resistance on the island, and especially in the Sperrin Mountains. And I suppose the visit was really special, like a real turning point in the struggle here against mining, because it also helped us reassess like what belonging means and what connection means, and we're really super excited about the fact that she's coming back in this summer. I'm bringing 20 other people from the Lakota and the Ojibwe nations with her, and we're going to be engaging in a water walk from the source of the River Foyle in the Sperrin Mountains, and we'll be carrying the water to sea, where the Foyle enters the sea, and passing through many communities that are resisting and that are existing despite extractivism. So yeah, I suppose this connection, and many that we've also had, you know, in person, welcoming people from different parts of the world, but also over the pandemic virtually, helps us build those global solidarity connections. And it's solidarity, like not in the typical Western, like, you know, charity sense, but it's actually coming both ways and all ways. You know, we receive support and solidarity as much as we share it. And, you know, that's helped us, yeah, in many ways, but also to learn, like, you know, we're experiencing extractivism here, but people in other parts of the world, especially Latin America, have been experiencing it much more intensely, much more violently, for longer. So listening and learning from their experiences has been really important. And also, yeah, like part of the ways we do that is through the likes of grassroots networks such as the Esta Life Nona Mining Network, which is a network that welcomes and houses like communities from across the world. So yeah, I suppose I'll stop there and ask V'cenza if she has anything else to add.
Well, that's everything. Thanks, Linda, and thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you so much. That was really fascinating and just amazing explanation of the ways in which this works, but also some of the things to be careful about, to take care with. So I'd like to ask whether anybody listening has any questions or thoughts that they want to share at this point. We've got a few minutes for some questions and reflections from everybody in the Zoom, and you can put in the chat if you'd prefer to. Yeah, so maybe what we can do then, if there are no questions at this point, is that I can hand back to V'cenza for she's going to take us on some guided reflection. V'cenza, I don't know whether you would like to kind of introduce that and explain what that's going to involve, and then but just, I think on behalf of all of us, just want to say thank you very much to you and Linda for such a powerful story, and for making those connections between your work and the work of everybody in the Despite Extractivism exhibition and beyond. So thank you. Over to you.
Thanks, Becky. Yeah, and so I suppose now me and Linda wanted to do a really short 5-minute guided exercise with you. And then we're going to have 5 minutes to meet in breakout rooms, to have a debrief and some reflection on that before we finish the session. So this exercise is called the Council of All Beings, and it's part of a body of work called Active Hope, or the work that reconnects, that myself and Linda are involved as facilitators in. And I suppose it's just a way of thinking with new eyes and seeing with new eyes. So I'm going to invite everybody to get comfortable and to slowly close your eyes. And when you're ready, you can take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Just taking a moment to let everything you've heard and felt and experienced in this session to wash over you. Breathing in and breathing out. I'd like to invite you now to let a non-human being come into your mind. That can be anything at all. It can be an animal, a plant, an ecological feature like a mountain or a swamp, a stone, the wind, a bird, anything at all. You don't need to know lots about this being. Just let whatever comes up come up. And now I'd like you to imagine that you are that being. Think about what it's like to be this other living thing, other life form. What does it feel like? How do you move? What sounds do you make? What powers and perspectives do you enjoy? What relationships nourish you and you nourish in return? Pastor Linda.
We know also that many of you are under stress. You're concerned for your own survival and that of your fellow beings in your community and further afield. Take a minute to think of your concerns. What threats are you encountering in your environment? What is worrying you? We also know that it's the actions of one adolescent species in our living world that is causing much of this pain and much of this stress. What message do you have for this young species? What could the humans do? How could the humans act to ease this suffering and redress this pain? And perhaps if you still have your pen and paper at your side, you could open your eyes and gently jot down the message that you have for your fellow humans.
And maybe in a minute, if Alice is okay to put everybody into breakout rooms, we could have a short discussion around this, maybe just reflecting on what your message was and how it felt to embody that life form.
Is everyone here able to join a room if they want to? Or maybe perhaps you want to facilitate something in Indonesian here? I don't know if people are able to chat.
Could you repeat on this? Sorry.
I've just seen that there's a lot of people here who still haven't managed to join a room. And I'm wondering if there's a language barrier, in which case maybe you want to start a little conversation.
Okay. Halo kawan-kawan. I thought it's already closed with Becky, no? Before, that's why I think people just leave, right? One by one. It's already closed by Becky later. Before V'cenza talk about, no?
I mean, so we're still in a room, although there's a breakout room, there's a few people still here in the waiting room who haven't joined a breakout room. And I don't know if they wanted to just have a little reflection here,
Halo,
but I don't know if
Hasna.
anyone else is here actually, or if they're sort of away from the screen.
Okay. Halo Hasna dan yang lain, Emma, apakah mau gabung dengan grup? Silakan kalau mau gabung dengan grup, masuk ke breakout room yang sudah ada namanya di masing-masing. Hasna bisa gabung ke breakout room 5. Emma juga bisa gabung, silakan. I think sometimes maybe they're not in the front of the. Maybe.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Oh, people are moving around their rooms. Let's move to
Name is in the Hasna dan Emma. Emma mau join kah di room 4? No, it's just one person in there.
Yeah, I moved them because
okay.
Yeah, they weren't joined. I can move again. Maybe if they want to join. It's all just like some of them have like 5 people and some have 2 or 3 now, depending. How long do I need? I always forget to pay attention. Maybe just another minute or two.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe 3 minutes and then 3 minutes until 2:30.
Yeah,
No,
maybe
no
bring
time.
back at 29 or something. What do we have to do to conclude? I don't know if it's a shame we haven't really had a time for like collective reflections or connections, or
No, yeah.
maybe we can invite Daniel and Maria. I don't know if they want to do that, or maybe we can sort of like officially close, and then if anyone else wants to stay and
Yeah,
connect and
we still
reflect together,
we still
that's
have
fine.
the last meeting, right, Alice?
Sorry?
For we still have like fifth meetings, so we can invite them to kind of have like
Something on
gender
International Women's Day, yeah, to be announced and to follow up on the website, I suppose. Yeah. All right, I'll start to invite people back in. I think they can have a minute. Oh no, this was a recording.
Could we close?
People are coming back now. Yeah.
Okay.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the room. Hope you had a nice reflection with each other. We're officially coming up to the advertised end point, so if you have to go, thank you so much for coming. It was really another really special space, and we're so glad you're able to share it with us. But perhaps we will stay, we'll stay here for a few more minutes, I think. If anyone else did want to sort of stay and decompress and share their reflections or connections, or even just leave something in the chat, we'd really welcome you to do so. Also to keep an eye out for our closing event for the exhibition series, which will be on International Women's Day, March the 8th. Very much to be confirmed what we'll be up to, but it will be brilliant, I'm sure. And if you do want to be involved in that in any way, then please let us know. So yeah, I will officially close and unofficially open the floor to any sort of reflections or connections. Maybe some of the contributing artists who are still here have sort of a way this connects with their work or their contexts, or anyone at all who's, I'm sure you're all doing very interesting and related things, want to bring it to the sort of experiences that you've been having. So I will, yeah, open the floor.
I was just explaining in the breakout room that my animal was a snail, and actually a snail mixed with a crystal. So I'm doing these drawings where I'm mixing something organic with crystals or with rocks, and the idea of the snail even more accentuated the deep time of the crystal, and vice versa. So it's about slowing down, and it's just slowing down everything, whether it's mining, whether it's consumption, whether it's, and kind of living more. It's like, what does a snail do? It just exists, obviously feeds itself, but it's just a crystal and a snail together is like reinforcing this deep time, and just, we're here just for a while, we'll go, but in the time we're here, we should just slow it down.
Yeah, Lise.
Yeah, I actually I just read something out to Louise, which I'll share with everyone. which was my reaction to the letter from Maria and Daniel, which was a really lovely guided meditation. Actually, it opens things. So I thought I'd read the letter that I wrote. This beautiful split, a gift to look through, see possibility in our earth, an exchange of dust, breathed in, breathed through me to you, sharing material, air alive as it is.
Thank you. I love these idea of these cracks that have kept growing in this session.
I'll also share something from Linda. Linda was talking about this message, you know, jot down a message for your fellow humans. And I thought, what would my message be? And so I put, care is in the hands that do.
Another verb along with welding, I think.
Yeah, I'll just read some words that I jot down during our reflections. The love letter that Maria and Daniel asked us to write, I just say thank you. Thank you for holding on. Thank you for the hope. Thank you for being there. Thank you for the care. But then after I wrote that, I felt like, thank you for holding on. Like, I feel like I'm being not fair. I'm doing injustice because I'm asking them like to hold on. Well, it's our fault, but we ask them to hold on. I'm just feeling that I'm doing injustice by saying that. And then also what Dewi and V'cenza and Linda says always reminds me about everyday care is resistance, surviving is resistance, solidarity, giving in, but also receiving is also resistance. That's all I wrote. This is what I wrote. But with my 3 years old sketching there.
For me, I think what this has meant, and sort of thinking about the beautiful words of Luce and from others who've also been sharing just now, is how many things are beyond words, and finding the words is really difficult. And so that's what I found really great about this webinar, is those other kinds of registers in which people can express care through the visual, through song, through sound. And I love the idea of speaking after finishing a song to bring you back to the world. That image really sticks with me. So thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I was a fish. I don't know what that means. Says about me, but I felt quite troubled by the kind of message that needed to come back, and it was a message about is anyone listening? So, and listening again, I'm coming to a sense. It's just one kind of sense to use, and there are other kinds of ways of sensing that communication. So, again, that I've learned so much through Despite Extractivism about those different registers, not just for speaking, but for listening as well. So thank you, everybody. It's been really powerful.
I just want to briefly echo and thank that invitation of kinship and of expanding our kinship to embody and to resonate with those beings around us. And in my own experience, the being that came to me was the kadushi, which is a type of cactus that grows on my island. It's an arid island, and it has persisted, resisted, and still stands strong. And the thorns, right? The thorns that that still have somehow resisted with their own care. And the message that I guess I channeled in that way was get closer. It wasn't, leave me alone. It wasn't go away. It wasn't, it was get closer. So how can we get closer? Yeah, in new ways. And I think after all of these centuries and histories, we're only learning still. So yeah, just wanted to leave that one.
Yeah, definitely. Always learning. That was the message that came through a lot for me, was that unlearning and relearning. And it's exciting, My love letter at the beginning was very much, what did I write down? Some sort of, almost like a desperate desire to be in this sort of world that's already there in the cracks, but how do you cultivate it where you are and sort of allow it to flourish? And I think, what we heard about the learning and the unlearning, that sort of solidarity is really reciprocal. That was really motivating as well. And there's all these different worlds that are all really exciting, and are all so much better than extractivism, which we're only coming to learn and unlearn about through these sort of different ways of thinking and challenging what's around us. So thank you so much, everybody, for allowing those thoughts to come through and be shared. And I love that everyone's is a little bit different as well, isn't it? That's sort of the point. Any other final thoughts? Or we can stop recording actually and bring it back. Go back to the real world gently. That's always the trouble after these Zoom sessions, isn't it? Hi, go ahead.
Yeah, in my mind it's like full with the cricket voice. I mean, it ends becomes my animals. But also when you hear the voice, it's like the persistence there, making the space of like constantly noisy sometimes, but it's mixed with the silent things and the persistence of the cracks. It's give me the important things about despite extractivism things. Like it's the persistent which disturb cracks and maintaining the care in a way. So persistence, I think, is important. Thanks, Alice. Thanks, everyone.
Where's this cricket coming from now? He's really persistent.
Yeah.
Ah, yes,
When
you're
I
still here doing. Nice. I love that you've
Yeah.
left the sound on for us.
When I was a child, there is not only the voice of the crickets, but also the voice of the frogs. But now the frog are gone. So it's really the lonely crickets without the chanting of the frog. Make me sad tonight. But the cricket is sending a happy voice, a happy chant to all of us this night. It's really the love connection.